Monday Files, where we learn stuff. We'll be checking out one of your voted video, why do escalator steps have teeth? Isn't that to prevent something from getting stuck?
On October 23rd, 2018, thousands of football fans were making their way to the game in Rome.
Oh no.
Excitement for the game was high, and the fans began to chant and sing.
It's gonna collapse, is it?
At 7:03 p.m., around 50 people were riding the long escalator down to the platform. But within 30 seconds, the crowd had swelled to nearly double that.
Oh no.
Everything seemed fine, but inside the escalator was a problem. The weight of the passengers was bearing down on the steps, and
Wait. I wasn't expecting a horror documentary. Hello? That show escalated quickly. Badum-tis.
the load on the main motor was increasing.
I just had to.
To try to slow the descent, the motor applied a counter torque. But as the force continued to increase, the stairs began to move faster. By 7:04 p.m., the crowd had tripled. The motor finally reached its limit, and under the massive strain, the drum began to slip. With the motor losing control, the escalator triggered its second line of defense. A safety relay tripped, immediately cutting power to the motor. The main brake clamped down on the metal drum to stop the descent of the stairs. But it failed. The friction on the main drum wasn't enough to stop the motor from spinning, and the stairs continued to accelerate. Sensing the motor had lost control of the steps, the escalator engaged the last line of defense. In the event of an emergency, an auxiliary brake is designed to bypass the motor entirely and directly lock the drive shaft.
That's a lot of defenses.
Under normal circumstances, the chance that all three safety measures fail at the same time is vanishingly small.
But these weren't normal circumstances.
So next time, if you see a lot of people on the freaking escalator, do not go on it. Or maybe you could be the first group to descend down. It's safer, I guess.
7:05 p.m., the third and final safety system failed, and the stairs began to plummet. Fans were flung forward and started streaming down the escalator.
Oh!
Some leapt over the central barrier in desperation, while others were swept into a crushing pileup. At the bottom, the landing became a dangerous choke point. Under the pressure, the steps twisted and buckled into jagged metal, leaving 24 people injured.
Damn!
Something like this shouldn't have been possible. And
to be honest, 24 people injured with that many people on the escalator is actually kind of lucky. At least nobody died, you know.
experts at the time knew that something had gone wrong, and they started to suspect foul play.
In the aftermath, Rome's transit agency sealed off the accident site and closed the Republica station for several months.
The authorities ordered both a technical and a criminal investigation, and the mayor even publicly vowed to discover the cause of the accident. So investigators began dismantling the wreck, tearing it down piece by piece to reconstruct what had happened.
Imagine that you are the first person to trip over that. Then a lot of people continue to pile up on top of you. You get squeezed. I guess the 24 people that got injured were squeezed.
People experienced on that escalator was one of the most terrifying rides of their lives. But maybe it's more similar to the origin of escalators than you might think. Like, what was the first escalator even used for? Do you want to have a guess?
History class!
It was an attraction in a theme park all the way back in 1896.
It's a theme park!
It had no steps, a 25-degree incline, and it was essentially just a slow conveyor belt made of...
You know what? Escalators that have no steps, but they still have the jagged teeth thingy, it actually scares me because you feel like your gravity is getting pulled behind you. So, yeah, I don't like the ones that has no steps.
It had no steps, a 25-degree incline, and it was essentially just a slow conveyor belt made of metal and wooden parts. It brought people up a full 7 feet before they would have to walk down stairs on the other side. And it was a huge success. Over 75,000 people enjoyed the attraction during its 2-week stay at the Old Iron Pier on Coney Island.
The ride was named the Continuous Elevator, and its inventor, Jesse Reno, had...
Wait. The attraction is that very escalator. You just ride up the escalator without any steps and just walk down the stairs. Is that what you're saying? That's the attraction. People in the olden days get amused so quickly.
Created it not just as an attraction, but as a proof of concept, because he saw it as the future of transportation.
Okay, fair, okay.
But as Reno watched
I'm
people
too
ride his
modern,
invention,
okay.
he began to notice a pattern. Nobody walked. Instead, they stood still, feet planted firmly sideways, with people gripping the handrail tightly.
Yeah,
2 years later,
well,
the department store Harrods in England installed a similar device. But the ride was so unsettling that Harrods had to put staff at the top to offer brandy to men and smelling salts to women, just to calm their nerves.
Okay.
See, for both devices, the
Smelling
25-degree
salts.
conveyor belt was precarious to walk on and unnerving to stand on. At around 12 degrees, walking on an incline becomes difficult, and 25 degrees is roughly the limit that our ankles can flex.
Make steps, bro.
If only there was a way to replace the conveyor belt with a moving set of stairs. Well, then the riders would always have a flat surface to stand on and a staircase they could climb if they wanted to.
One attempt at a solution had already been around for 4 decades, and
Have you guys ever wanted to try walking the opposite of the escalator? Like when it's ascending, you wanna walk in descent, you wanna walk down it. I never tried it before, but I have a thought.
it was called the revolving stairs. It consisted of a chain that went around a loop. Then fixed stair-shaped blocks were attached to it, creating a flat surface to stand on during the main incline. But as soon as you'd reach the top, the steps tilted forward, making it treacherous to get off.
Ouch.
And a similar problem plagued you at the bottom. Now you might think, if the top and bottom are causing problems, just extend each landing. But that also doesn't work. You just end up with a jagged mess for longer.
So how do modern escalators solve this problem? I mean, have you ever stopped to think what happens to the stairs at the top of the escalator when they disappear?
Clearly, we have steps going
This
around in
became
some sort
flat.
of loop. But how do they actually behave on the return journey? What if I give you 2 options? Do they stay right side up, like the cabins in a Ferris wheel? Or do they flip upside down and then flip back again at the other side?
Never thought about it.
This one all day.
Ferris wheel?
This one makes more sense.
Ferris wheel.
Yeah, this one.
I think they turn upside down.
And they're actually right side up.
I think I'm gonna go with your first.
Wow, you're both, yeah.
The solution to this problem came from another inventor named George Wheeler. His idea forms the basis of every escalator in use today. A modern version of it works something like this.
I am immensely thankful for all these inventors in inventing moving steps and not just a conveyor belt.
A typical subway escalator has an electric motor at the top with a power output of around 50 kilowatts, smaller than most electric cars. This motor spins extremely fast at over 1,000 RPM, but it's pretty weak. So to drive the steps, the escalator needs to convert this into a slower output with more force. To do this,
I imagine it to be a little bit bigger because the escalators are kind of big. Maybe it could be bigger than this one, but it just looks small, okay, to make this huge escalator work.
it uses a reduction gearbox and a gear system, lowering the output to just a few RPM and increasing the torque by a factor of around 100. The motor is connected with a large sprocket to a reinforced steel chain which pulls the stairs around a loop. The so-called step chain is fitted with wheels to allow it to roll smoothly around curves. But unlike the design for the revolving stairs, Wheeler proposed attaching each step to this chain through a single axle, giving it the freedom to rotate.
Oh.
Next, he added a second set of wheels to each step that followed a different track, allowing him to control the angle of each step at any point.
That's
On the
smart.
incline, the 2 tracks overlap, just like the revolving staircase. But then at the top, the 2 tracks separate, and this is what allows us to keep the steps level throughout the entire ride. The tracks then remain separated and curve around. The steps flip upside down, tuck into the loop, and start their return journey.
They really
At the
do
start of the
flip
incline, the
upside
tracks
down.
rejoin, and the whole process repeats.
So the answer is you were both wrong.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Wow, I never really thought about that.
Yeah, like I would say it's like an upside down elevator, bro.
Like, guess what? You're right.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yippee! Yeah,
Despite
look
all
at this
modern
guy.
escalators
This is how I feel when I got praised by the teacher. Yeah.
But But despite all modern escalators adopting Wheeler's design, at the time it caught so little attention that he was forced to shelve the idea. It wasn't until 8 years later that another inventor, Charles Seeberger, bought his patent and capitalized on.
Did I hear that correct? Seeberger.
Until 8 years later that another inventor,
Seeberger. Okay. Fish burger, bro.
Charles Seeberger, bought his patent and capitalized on the invention. Seeberger partnered with the Otis Elevator Company, and together they built a prototype.
A year later, in 1900, they showcased it at the Paris Exposition Universelle. In total,
Oh,
51
it's in
million people
Paris.
flocked to the exposition to see the marvels of modern technology. But one of the most popular exhibitions was the world's first true commercial escalator. The machine drew huge crowds. French historian Philippe Julien described it as the jolliest attraction at the exhibition and wrote, "The escalator caused many an incident worthy of the vaudeville, separating families, sending old men sprawling, delighting the children, and reducing their nanas to despair." The escalator was even awarded one of the grand prizes of the fair. Shortly after, escalators started being installed in different places across the world.
So it started at Paris. The inventor of the ideas, bro. The Charles guy. He missed out a lot. If only he was born later. However, if he was born later, then no one would have the idea to do that. But all the glory was taken by the Seeberger guy.
But these escalators weren't perfect. They had smooth, flat stairs, and when they reached the top, these stairs would disappear under a wooden board, leaving a dangerous gap between them.
Shoelaces, coats, and especially the long skirts in fashion at the time easily
no.
got caught in the machinery.
Oh no.
One incident even saw a 3-year-old girl getting her foot pinched in the gap.
Ouch.
And while the girl luckily escaped with injured toes and a missing shoe, something in the design had to change.
It ate her shoe, bro. Talking about escalators, a few weeks ago, I went to the mall. This mystery is still stuck with me till this day. They were repairing the escalator, so they put those kinda like office partition walls, but simpler, around the escalator so that people won't accidentally, instinctively try to use the escalator only to find out that there's no steps. They already took away the steps so you can see the inside of the escalator to the basement floor. However, that time, there was a cat that accidentally went into the mall and people were trying to get it outside. So it was running for its life. It fell. It fell into that hollow escalator thing. The partition walls, it can prevent people from going towards the escalator, but beneath it, small animals can still go through it. So the cat fell and it meowed. The shop owners all see it. The surrounding shop owners all see what happened. And they say they would maybe tell the workers that there's a cat there. But I don't know. We left before we get to see it get rescued out. So, I hope the cat survive. Please continue to meow until the workers come so they don't forget about your existence and close the escalator, please. I hope the cat survive. And you guys are stuck with this information.
To solve this, Seeberger and Otis installed a triangular shunt at the end of the escalator, forcing riders to go off to the left before they reached the dangerous gap. This system worked, but it was awkward because it meant people had to put one foot onto solid ground while the other was still moving, which became especially tricky when some people stood still and others walked. So to reduce the risk of people getting in each other's way, operators asked people to stand on the right and keep the left lane clear for faster walkers. It's a convention we still often follow to this day.
But as it turns out, there's a much better solution than the shunt.
Modern escalator steps aren't smooth, they're grooved. These grooves then interlock perfectly with a comb plate at the top of the escalator. So now if a small item approaches the end, the comb plate lifts it up and out of harm's way. This makes it much harder for things to get stuck, and perhaps more importantly, it allows people to safely step off forwards. But the comb plate doesn't entirely solve the problem. We still have these gaps on the side of the escalator that can pinch and trap objects as the steps move. So to address this, a new safety feature called the skirt brush was added to the escalator in 1982. Escalators are full of subtle safety features like this, some old and some new, but almost all of them are designed around people. All the way back in 1896, Jesse Reno
Yeah, nothing safe the animals.
predicted
Help.
that riders on his attraction would need something to hold on to, so he introduced a moving handrail. In a modern escalator, the motor has a separate connection to turn a friction wheel that drives the handrail.
The only problem is that friction wears things down, so over time the wheel gets smaller, and as its circumference decreases, each rotation moves the rubber loop a slightly shorter distance, so the handrail begins to move more slowly. The effect is small, but it builds up over time. So to compensate for this, a new handrail is calibrated to move around 2% faster than the steps. You can actually try this
Oh.
yourself. Next time you're standing on an escalator, just place your hand next to you as you stand still.
I don't really like to place it on the handrail, to be honest. Everyone placed their hand there. I'm not germaphobe kinda. However, I do place my hand on it sometimes. When it requires maintenance, the handrail will be like a little laggy. It's not smooth anymore. It just lags a bit and a bit. I wonder, will that cause any danger to the escalator itself?
And you will watch as your hand slowly drifts forward. This speed difference stops the handrail from lagging too far behind the steps over time.
Because I have definitely noticed that sometimes I'm on an escalator and then it's going faster than me. My hand is going faster than my body.
Yeah, same.
But that means it's a new escalator.
Well, it's a new frictional wheel. That wheel that drives the handrail. So it's we don't replace the entire escalator.
Oh wow. So that's like a party trick I can use to entertain my friends. I mean, I don't know when I'd have a party on an escalator, but whatever. If I'm on an escalator with my friends and I can see it moving, I'd be like, "Hey, that's because there's a new frictional wheel." I can tell them that and impress them.
Okay.
But it's not
That's
just the
something
handrail.
to know.
The speed of the steps themselves is also something that needs to be carefully controlled. Modern escalators use AC induction motors, which are extremely good at regulating their rotational speed. And this has an unexpected benefit on downward escalators. With enough people riding, their weight is enough that the motor no longer has to power the ride. Instead, the weight of the passengers themselves drives the chain and causes the motor to spin. As more people board, the force on the motor increases and it's pushed to turn faster. But modern AC induction motors work by creating
So is it even faster if there's more people?
a rotating magnetic field. When the motor tries to spin faster than the field, electric currents are induced inside it, which then create their own magnetic field. This new field pushes back in the opposite direction to the spin, creating a braking force which resists the increase in speed. But something interesting happens when the motor resists like this. Rather than consuming energy, the physics of the motor flips, and it uses the excess mechanical energy to produce an electric current. This is called regenerative braking, and it's the same trick that electric vehicles use to recharge their batteries. In effect, the motor turns into a generator.
I really wanted to try those underground train system because we don't have that here. There's trains in the West Malaysia, but over here, I think we only have like the very old train, the choo-choo train. I don't know. Never rode it before. My dad had tried it before. It's the slow train. It's not one of those bullet trains, of course. It's slow that it's very cute.
The result is that on a busy day, many modern downward escalators aren't just moving people, they're actually generating electricity. Often, this is channeled back to the building's internal grid and used to power other devices, including the upward escalators.
So
Hey,
even the
that's new. I didn't know that.
escalator that was invented by George Wheeler and was installed in 1920, the Paris exhibition, etc.
This guy sure likes horses, bro. And the horses are just staring at him. Maybe it was drawn by his kids. That's cute.
All these escalators were regenerated.
What?
Yeah, when there were people standing on the escalator in down direction, these escalators were feeding energy back into the grid.
No.
Yeah, no
It's
way.
Like the down escalator is a generator?
This regenerative braking makes escalators extremely power efficient, but more importantly, it makes them inherently safe. But there is a point where if you keep adding weight, then eventually the force becomes so strong that the motor can no longer resist it. And if left unchecked, it would start accelerating uncontrollably. The stairs would go plummeting down, which is exactly what happened in Rome.
That really escalated a lot.
After a nearly 2-year-long investigation, the investigators published this 86-page report. Inside, it lists the exact sequence of events that led to the disaster. As fans crowded onto the escalator, their combined weight increased the load on the main motor. The motor tried to resist this change, but as more and more people funneled on, the force got too high, and eventually it hit a tipping point, and the motor started accelerating uncontrollably. Safety sensors in the machine noticed this sudden change and triggered two things in short succession. First, the power to the motor was cut, and immediately after that, the main brake engaged. Two massive arms clamped down on the drum to lock it in place and avert a runaway.
This brake should have had enough stopping power to bring the fully loaded escalator to a halt,
Wow, the brake really did its best.
even under the massive strain. But it didn't. Tests after the incident showed that its braking force was far too low, around 37% of the manufacturer's specification.
Well, huh?
The weakened brake struggled to slow the spinning motor, and the escalator's downhill acceleration continued.
So they use a worse brake than usual?
This is when the last line of defense kicked in. When the escalator's speed rose by more than 20%, the auxiliary brake triggered, driving steel wedges into a disc on the drive shaft.
But when investigators opened up this brake, they were shocked. The final mechanical backstop had been partially disabled. Someone had physically tied plastic straps around one of the two brake wedges and rendered it useless.
What is this, true crime? I wasn't expecting that. This is one of those plastic straps when they tie new stuff. They forgot to undo it? What? Do they have ill intent or did they just forgot? Either way, people were hurt.
With half the system unable to engage, its stopping power was cut by 50%, just enough for the weight of all those passengers to overpower the brake and render the last line of defense useless. Investigators knew that these failures should have been automatically recorded in the error logs, but when they went to check, they found nothing. The error codes had been turned off, meaning critical malfunctions could occur without leaving a trace.
Wait, who did this?
The only way this could happen was if they had been disabled on purpose, meaning someone must have reprogrammed the system to stop recording fault codes.
Next, investigators turned to the maintenance records. But they found these similarly incomplete, and evidence of major work on the escalator was nowhere to be found at all.
It was preferable to keep the service running even if it's unsafe. What do you mean? Huh? We recorded a company chat in which it was explained that the historical memory of fault data should be modified to avoid penalties for the maintenance companies. You guys. The heck? Really? There are discrepancies in the maintenance booklet, some of which was not filled out and some of which was falsely filled out. How are they so selfish? Nobody died, right?
At all.
With all the main safety systems compromised and critical alerts turned off, the escalator had been a ticking time bomb. All findings from the technical investigation pointed not to a manufacturing defect,
workers are lazy,
but to a pattern of neglect and falsification by those in charge of keeping the machine safe. This left the prosecution with one clear question: who was responsible?
Yeah, sue them.
The trail of evidence led back to June 2017, when maintenance responsibilities for Rome's escalators shifted to a new contractor, Metro Roma. The Transit Authority, ATAC, severed its contract with Metro Roma in an attempt to wash its hands of the situation. But as the criminal inquest continued, it became clear the problem went far deeper. The investigators discovered that Metro Roma had been working hand in hand with the Transit Authority, ATAC, and together they presided over negligent maintenance and falsified records all across the network.
But why? Why? Nande? Doshite? 为啥? Kenapa? Why would you guys do this? to save the budget to gamble on people's lives?
September 2019, 11 suspects were named, and the courts had suspended 3 ATAC managers, along with the chief of Metro Roma.
Go to
The
jail.
prosecution's findings were grave. In many cases, safety devices had been deliberately sabotaged to avoid escalator shutdowns. And those in charge had covered their tracks through a pattern of fraud and obstruction. In the midst of the public outrage, prosecutors recorded a chilling wiretap of ATAC manager Renato D'Amico.
Is it because they want to pocket some money? Is it corruption? They charge this amount supposedly because they cut down some things. So it was... But why the plastic thing? You could just undo the plastic thing. Like, it's still there. Why sabotage the last defense? Confused.
The translation, if you run the numbers, out of 700 escalators, there'd be like 3 or 4 more dropping. Come on.
The prosecutors note in their report that D'Amico appeared uninterested in the possibility there might have been people on those 3 or 4 escalators. It was simply a matter of numbers and percentages to him.
Damn.
It was a callous remark, and it painted a clear picture of the incident.
This ATAC guy or whatever, he should be the one who gets injured. Yeah, I said it. He should be the one who gets injured instead of all the people. He doesn't even care. What the heck? At least remove the plastic thing.
This wasn't an engineering failure, it was a human one.
He did it on purpose.
But
What
that
the
brings
heck?
us to a more fundamental question. I mean, how safe are escalators really? The truth is, when they're properly maintained, the safety margins on escalators are enormous. Each system is engineered to handle forces far beyond what they'll ever see in service.
So the braking load of our step is like greater 15 kilonewtons, so 1.5 tons. So you can put an elephant on the step.
Elephant.
Well, I've never seen a step break in my whole career. Never seen a step chain break either. I mean, it's just not happening. I mean, I'm not here to say that there are no accidents on escalators, but the accidents I know, I mean, it's critical, like that you ensure the right maintenance. That's the important thing, because in the end, it's all about maintenance.
It's all
When
about
this is done right,
maintenance.
the chances of a catastrophic
And all about good companies that does the maintenance.
failure are vanishingly small.
And with around 1.5 million escalators worldwide, that really is how it should be. In the US and Canada alone, over 100 billion escalator trips are happening every year, making the escalator one of the most widely used forms of transport on the planet. On a scale that large, it's sometimes easy to point the finger at our technology when things go wrong, but the truth is, no matter how well designed our systems are, they all rely on people to maintain them. And perhaps that's the lesson here. As
Blame the maintenance guys.
humans, we have a duty of care, not just to ourselves, but to everyone around us. And sometimes that means taking responsibility for keeping each other safe.
Wow.
In a way, that's how the
nice.
escalator's story began, with one person deciding to take responsibility for a problem that everyone else ignored. Back when Jesse Reno was at university, every day he had to climb more than 300 steps to get to his frat house. But while everyone else complained about this, Reno did something about it. He had the
I did lose a lot of weight when I had to climb all those steps to get to my dorm room. There's no lift, no escalator, just me and this heavy bag.
math, the science, and most importantly, the problem-solving skills to create the world's very first escalator, which he took to Coney Island. So how do you go from a frustrating everyday problem to an innovation that changes the world? Well, that's where today's sponsor, Brilliant, comes in. Brilliant is a learning app built around interactive problem-solving. Whether it's electric circuits, probability, or even AI, Brilliant's courses are designed to help you build intuition.
Thank you for watching. I hope you learned new stuff today. Didn't know that escalators can generate electric by themselves. But I mean, it is possible with the motors. No questions for you guys today. I will end it here. See you next time.